Let's see here. Starting right guard shot, no longer in school. Starting middle linebacker shot, no longer in school. Two players fighting right in front of the coach. Starting center arrested. Most coaches, that would be pretty much a career's worth of crap to deal with. I think that sums up the last 2 weeks for me.
Man open, and he dropped it. Vanessa's about to fall 0-1.
Anybody can be a champ. It takes a man to stand up when this thing hits you in the mouth because it hurts. Everybody says when you get these inner city kids down, they'll lay over and you'll beat them by 40. Not us.
We are pleased to be here with our partners here at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in beautiful Brick City, Newark, New Jersey, and very honored to have from Tennessee.
Memphis.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry for not getting that right, Bill Courtney, author of Against the Grain, former coach of Manassas high school football team, profiled in the Oscar-winning documentary Undefeated. Welcome to Newark.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Amazing story. Amazing
Well,
story. Listen, there's so many pieces to this, and I'm glad we have an uninterrupted period of time to talk, not edited. We don't edit here on public broadcasting.
Good.
For those who have never seen Undefeated, describe it, and then we'll talk about the book.
It's a. People think it's a football movie because there's football players on the cover, but it's not. It's a human interest story that football is the backdrop that explores 3 players and my life as we work to build a football team, but more importantly, build meaningful lives for all of us, while I also struggle with the time it takes to do that against the time it takes away from my family, which parallels my childhood. And so if there's an overall theme, it has nothing to do with wins and losses on a football field. It's about not being defeated by your circumstances.
And talk about this book, Against the Grain, a coach's wisdom on character, faith, family, and love.
I own a lumber company. In 2001, I started a business with $10,000 off my couch. My children were 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, and 4 years old. Right, we got on city water and it cleared up. So anyway, we had all those small children, and we started a business kind of on a wing and a prayer, and it's a lumber company. And so the metaphor of against the grain, you know, you take a rough piece of lumber and you work painstakingly to sand it against the grain, that over the course of time, that's hard and you're going against the grain, but that's what creates these timeless family heirlooms that you pass down from one to another. And likewise, the tenets and fundamentals that are in the book Against the Grain, to adhere to them, you kind of got to go against today's societal preconceived notions about how people are supposed to act. And it's painstaking and it's tough, but it's timeless. For example, every chapter is a tenet or fundamental. Yeah. And I define them in layman's terms, and then we explore them. And I don't preach them. We explore them through the eyes of other people who've been in my life. So, for instance, civility. I define that as how we treat those we oppose says more about us than our own opinions do.
I'm sorry, you're saying this to every member of Congress?
Ironically enough, I was just talking with Chris, a friend of mine, and we're gonna try to have that conversation.
I was actually just saying how you're serious right now.
I'm dead serious.
How important would that be?
Well,
civility and the American political system, particularly in Congress.
All right, you want to talk about going against the grain? Here's the thing. All the pundits, after they do all the reviews of us, the voting public, the electorate, we say we're sick of people who won't get along with one another. We want people to compromise. We want people to find a middle ground. We want people to go out and get something done. That's what we say.
That's what we say.
That's what we say. But the number one vote getter right now in the Republican Party is Trump, who beats anybody up. And the number one vote getter on the Democratic side is Hillary, who listed as her greatest enemies the Republican Party.
We're doing this in the fall of 2015.
Well, now,
this is the air later, but that's the point. The point's well taken.
But the point is
Are they looking to bring people together?
Well, first of all, the Republicans and Democrats are not enemies.
They're American citizens.
They're adversaries. Enemies are Russia and Iran. They're adversaries, yes, but not enemies. But that's what Clinton says. And then Trump beats it. So on the one hand, we as an electorate say, we want people to get along, but on the other hand, the people that get the most votes from us are the most polarized, opposites, uncivil people in the world. So my question is Hillary and Trump the problem, or are we?
What do you think?
Because if we would understand the importance of civility and quit supporting those actions, Trump and Hillary don't exist. We create that in what we look for. So in the book, I explore civility in a way that hopefully is a little fresh. Same thing with commitment, character. I mean, we can talk for 4 hours.
Give us the other, it's civility, it's commitment.
No, it's 14
character.
Character, commitment, civility, the dignity of hard work, the importance of a legacy, the importance of a forgiving, graceful heart.
Do that one. Forgiving and graceful heart. People right now who are saying, I can't forgive her, I can't forgive him. You have no idea what he or she did to me. You say.
The importance of forgiveness is not for the forgiven, but it's for the forgiver. Because if you harbor anger and uncivil thoughts and all of those animosities about another human being, it doesn't really hurt the other human being, but it eats you up from the inside out. You need to be forgiving for yourself, not for the forgiver.
Talk about your childhood, because that's an incredibly powerful part of the story.
My dad left home when I was 4. My mom was married and divorced 5 times. My mom's 4th husband shot at me with a .38 caliber pistol. I had to dive out a window to save myself. I came up with not much of nothing. And I mean, I grew up in a very broken home. My mom loved me, but, you know, 5, it's, I don't know.
How'd you wind up doing what you are doing, writing this book, being featured in this film, sitting here with me right now?
I went to school, graduated with a degree in psychology. All I ever wanted to do was coach football and teach school. Married the most beautiful woman on the face of the earth. And when you're fat and redheaded and you marry a hot girl, you got to figure out, well, how do I make sure she doesn't get away? So the only thing I knew to start having kids. So we had these 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. Do you ever fish?
No.
All right, when you
I grew up in Newark. Where was I going to fish?
I don't know, the Hudson. Don't fish in that thing. But when you light into a slab, you don't let it off the hook.
Got it.
Okay? Well, I lit into a slab. That's my good-looking wife. So the only way I knew not to let it off the hook was just start having kids, right? So we had these 4 kids. I couldn't afford to coach anymore. Went into business. And over the period of when I was a high school football player until I started my business, I bumped around against a bunch of great mentors, none of whom I'm exactly alike, but a lot of who I am, I chose a little bit of each of them. And I really think that's the chemistry of each of our own narratives, is we're a little piece of all of those we bump into. But here's the thing.
Sure.
What if all those you bump into are terrible people? We have got a responsibility to make sure those that bump up against us bump off of us with some good.
You know, I'm actually looking here at the table of contents, and some of them that really jumped out at me. I'm obsessed by the issue of leadership, the question of leadership, and
so I speak all over the country about it. I write a book about it. I literally speak all over the country about it because I think we have an abject loss of leadership in our society today, and I think it's in our family, our politics, our businesses. I can give you stats that make your head spin about it.
And forget about the stats, because I'm going to ask you this. I spent the last 2 years of my life writing a book coming out in a few months, and we don't plug. I'll just let people know it's called Lessons in Leadership, and it's a series of case studies on leaders. But I'm going to ask you this question. What's the biggest leadership lesson you learned in your life?
That the greatest measure of the effectiveness of a leader is the actions of the followers. And if you see a family that's struggling and the kids are running amok and the husband and wife are arguing, I submit to you, it's a leadership issue. When you see a business failing, I submit to you, it's a leadership issue. When you see a country that can't get along, I submit to you, it's a leadership issue. However, when you see things running well and tight, I submit to you, that's a leadership conquest. The greatest measure of the effectiveness of a leader is the actions of the followers. Look at the followers, and if they're terrible, you can see bad leadership. If they're doing right, that's some leadership you can learn from. So I just tried to look at organizations, families, societies that were doing well, and figure out what that leader was doing right.
You know, the kids that you coached at Manassas, who are these kids? And what were they facing?
The area that surrounds Manassas High School in Memphis is called New Chicago, Smoky City, and Greenlaw. An 18-year-old male is 3 times more likely to be incarcerated by his 20th birthday than he is to be in college. 3 times. So for every 1 kid that's in college, there's 3 that's in jail by their 20th birthday. These kids come from a place that the average median income is $7,995 annually. Only 32% of the adults in these areas have an operating vehicle. 1.3% of the adults in this area have a bachelor's degree, and only 12.5% consist of a married household.
How violent?
It's unbelievably violent. It's rampant with drugs and gangs and everything else.
Kids get killed?
Oh, all the time. I've got, well, the movie opens with the fact that I've got 3 football players that are shot. And yes, but the human spirit is still alive. And the will and want to be part of something, just anything positive, is still there. And that's what I mean by not being defeated by your circumstances. That's the story that Undefeated, the movie, explores. But how that happened is what Against the Grain explores. The tenets we employed to make that a better place is here. This is not a story of Undefeated.
This is not football.
This has nothing to do with football.
So, but by the way, you went there to coach those kids for 3 months. You stayed how long? 6 years?
6.5 years.
What's up with that?
Showed up with 17 kids. Previous 10 years record was 496. My 5th and 6th year, we went 18-2. We had 75 kids on those teams, not 75 each year, and in an area where an 18-year-old male is 3 times more likely to go to prison than he is to go to college. We graduated 36 seniors and 35 went to college. And I'm telling you, it's because those kids had the courage to adhere to those principles, go against the grain of the culture that was gripping them, and make something of their lives. And that's just one example. There's business examples, political examples. We can do this. We can change the culture.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. You know, people point all the time, you know, you look at cable television in terms of political cable television. You see lots
You're talking about the pundit shows.
Whatever.
CNN, Fox, that kind of stuff.
And across the board. MSNBC, mostly about things that aren't working and people criticizing other people. And I've participated in those discussions, and I want to be clear, but my bread and butter is in public broadcasting for a reason. We try to have conversations like this. But there aren't many people like you floating around. So here's my question. Given how positive you are, given how undefeated your mindset is, given how you've taken ridiculously against the odds situations that you have and succeeded, have you seriously considered running for public office, major public office?
What's funny is I've been approached by both Democrats and Republicans, which means nobody knows where I stand, which is perfect. You know, frankly, there's a lot of jobs that I would love to have, but would be a terrible politician.
I asked you about being a leader. I asked you about being a leader in government. I didn't ask you about being a politician.
But you got to be a politician to get the job, unfortunately.
Why can't you do and say the things you are saying right now and get elected?
You know, for the same reason that Hillary and Trump are our leading candidates right now.
That's them. I'm asking about you. You're saying that there's not another way?
I think there is another way. And yes, I've considered it. I just don't know.
Seriously considered it? Or it's just come and gone?
My kids are 20, 19, 18, and 17.
Oh, man.
I've got a beautiful wife at home. I've got 120 employees in a business I run every day to day. I speak all over the country. I mean, in my spare time, sure, I can run for office.
You're making a difference every day.
I don't know that I'm making a difference every day. What I'm trying to do is to get people to think about how they can make a difference every day. You can lead without ever leaving the bedroom. You can lead down the hallway. When we have a 50% divorce rate in this country, I submit to you, we're not serving each other in a leadership role in our marriages. You don't have to have a corner office or a plaque on the door, be the head coach or be the business unit manager, be a leader. You can lead in the bedroom. Do you really, really know what your inhibitions and fears and dreams and goals of your children are? Because if you don't, how can you serve them? And if you can't serve them, you can't lead them. And here's the deal. We watch in horror while 400 kids in Baltimore attack police with rocks and stones. Everybody watched it. And it made national news when that God loved that mother.
That's right.
Who went in and snatched her son out of that and beat him all the way home for being a jackass and being involved in that. And God bless her, but that made national news. What should make national news in my mind is that there were 399 parents who didn't. We're not leading in our own households.
Bill Courtney. The book is called Against the Grain, A Coach's Wisdom on Character, Faith, Family, and Love. A forward, by the way, is by Phil Jackson.
He's a pretty good basketball coach.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Knows something about winning, more about leadership. Yeah. Thank you for joining us here at NJPAC.
My honor. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you, Bill.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJPAC has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and by the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in cooperation with NJTV and 13 for WNET. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJPAC has been provided by TD Bank, Cohn Resnick, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Barnabas Health, NJ Best, Verizon Communications, and by the New Jersey Education Association. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by NJ Biz, All Business, All New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.